I am enjoying my life because things aren't going the way I planned. Rohit Pandita. On today's episode, we're going to talk about slowing down, enjoying life, and forgetting about time, something that is very difficult for us entrepreneurs to do.
You have the power to be the boss of your own life. I'm your host, Monica Allen. I'm a wife, mom, entrepreneur, best-selling author, lifelong learner, and your biz bestie. I have a love and passion for all things small business. Growing my own company from $700 to over 7 figures annually, my goal is to bring you inspiration, business-focused topics and tips, encouragement, and a community that helps you launch, grow, and scale your business, whether you are a dreamer, a side hustler, or a seasoned entrepreneur. You are listening to the Become Your Own Boss podcast.
I am in Nairobi, Kenya right now, and though I had planned on publishing a brand new episode with a multi-passionate entrepreneur and thus someone who owns multiple businesses, things just have not quite gone as planned. I did not bring my laptop because it was not recommended. Not to mention, each person is limited to 33 pounds to go on safari. 33 pounds, talking about a challenge. 33 pounds per person. That being said, though I am always thinking ahead when it comes to the podcast and all my projects that I'm working on, I always have and still tend to wait until the 9th hour to get things done. So instead of a typical episode, this is about my experience here in Kenya so far. And initially I felt kind of bad because I'm like, I need to publish something new and fresh. But it's as if I got confirmation when the host of this event that we're attending sent us a handwritten note. And this is what it said. Dear Ethan, Monica, Legend, and Imana, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to Kenya. And as a fellow EOer, I am super excited to have organized your trip. Safari is the word for a journey in Swahili. There is no substitute for the African journey in the wild. So much to look forward to. The sunrises, sunsets, the game viewing, all out of your control though. I invite you to do one thing, which is in your control. Slow down. Slow down to the rhythm of the wild and forget about time. For it is in the space of timelessness that you will feel in harmony with nature and truly alive and grateful. Have a great trip, Lena. It is as if this note gave me permission, not that I needed it, but permission to slow down, to just enjoy, and not worrying about publishing this episode that I had planned on weeks ago. We haven't gone on safari yet. We will leave early in the morning. But in the meantime, we've had an opportunity to visit Hope and Shine, a small neighborhood school located here in a Kenyan slum, which has about 200,000 people in it, according to our driver, and who makes an average income of somewhere around $2 per day. To clarify, the average person living in the slum makes about $2 a day. That really makes you look at things a lot differently. Hope and Shine is a school that takes in about 42 to 45 kids. These kids learn in about 100 square feet, and that may be me being generous because, of course, I didn't break out my measuring tape, but it is a very, very small space. I have posted some pictures on my stories. However, I will be making a post on Instagram at some point in more detail about just the moving aspect of visiting this school. The teacher showed us around and she is so proud of her students. They're happy, they're willing to learn, and the teacher makes sure that they get porridge in the morning and she makes them lunch during the day. There's 2 teachers, and while one is teaching, the other makes lunch for the kids. She said that many of them don't get a home-cooked meal in the evening, so they try to give them sustenance to hold them over to the next day in school. The kids range anywhere from 2 to 13. However, I saw one student there holding an infant. I'm sure the baby was the young lady's sibling. As a matter of fact, Winnie, the teacher who showed us around, also showed us her home, that she grew up in, and it is a very small space. And it's hard for me to describe the slum area because you really have to see it. But the roofs are all tin, like rusted tin. They're very small spaces. She grew up with 11 people in her home, and it's probably 12 by 12 if I had to measure in my head. But she actually still lives there because she says the community is just so important to her, her neighbors, the love that they all have for each other. And it was absolutely moving to just talk to her and to meet her. This was such a humbling experience for our entire family. My daughter Imana wants us to figure out how to donate now. She asked a number of times during this tour, what could we do to help? How can we get the account information to donate? And she's already thinking about, how can we build a school here someday? Such a very humbling experience, and makes me so appreciate and be grateful for what I've been blessed with. But you know, the kids are so happy and the people seem happy. But you don't know what you are missing if you've never had it. And that's okay. They're happy and they're living their lives. Cooking on the street, selling clothing and food, and so much more. But just such a great experience, and I'm glad I had an opportunity to be there. I'm glad my kids had an opportunity to be there. And so I will keep you updated as we do progress on and go on safari. Another great thing about this trip too is I am on it with many entrepreneurs from EO Atlanta and New York. EO, as I've mentioned before, is Entrepreneurs Organization. So I'm really looking forward to working on lining up interviews with all of these entrepreneurs, because I really want to learn from them to share with you how they made it from, say, a 6-figure business to a 7-figure business. Because in order for you to be a member of EO, you have to have a 7-figure business. So I want us all to learn from each and every one of them. So just so you know, I am working on getting those interviews lined up. So stay tuned for those in the future. In the meantime, if you're new to the podcast, you may or may not know I changed the name back in February. Originally, when the podcast came out back in 2020, it was called Stitched for Success, a little bit of a play on one of the businesses we have that is embroidery, and of course has to do with stitching. And there are so many great episodes under that title. It's still, you can find it under Become Your Own Boss, but it was early on in the podcast. And so if you're new to the podcast, check out some of those episodes, and I'll give you a few that I think would be helpful, especially if you're probably 3 years or less in your business. These would be great episodes to check out. Episode 3, which is called Don't Get Pebbles in Your Shoes. Check out episode 3. And then I have some episodes that I called Business Masterclass early on. And those are episodes 9, 12, 13, 14, 17, 18, and 22. So if you have an opportunity to go back and listen to some of those episodes, they have great content that can help you in your business long term. I often reference the quote by Bruce Lee that says, be like water and go with the flow, be adaptable. And I'm paraphrasing, but I am doing that this week. And I hope you enjoy this episode. I hope you enjoy the message of it. The message of slow down to the rhythm of the wild and forget about time. That can be so hard for us entrepreneurs because we always have so many things running through our minds, so many things that we want to accomplish. But as one of my friends says, Nina, love Nina so much, slow down to rev up. And I love that. But slow down and for a moment, just forget about time. Thank you so much for listening today. If you hear some horns in the background or some people speaking with accents, just enjoy it, because I'm going with the flow and I'm enjoying every moment of it. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Become Your Own Boss Podcast. You can also follow me on TikTok under the same name. And there's also a Facebook group, so feel free to join that as well. Please take a moment to rate the podcast, write a review if you have an opportunity, and subscribe so you get notifications every time a podcast is posted. Now is the time to level up, leave a legacy, and become your own boss.